Welcome to Beyond Love and Light podcast, where we bypass the fluff, lift the veil, and explore how to navigate the human experience as a spiritual being. I am Laura Gavander, a transformation coach, psyche and emotion code facilitator. Join me as we delve into topics relating to human consciousness, alternative healing modalities, quantum physics, and the psychology of spirituality. I bring you insights and information from amazing guests and my own experience and observations. Please remember to subscribe to get notifications. And if you'd like to know more about me and my work, please go to my website, www.lauragavander.com. So let's get on with the podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Love and Light. I am Laura Gavander, and definitely this conversation is going to go beyond love and light. So I am very excited and honored to welcome my guest, Talie Miller. And I'm just going to read you a quick little bio, just to kind of lay the foundation for what we're going to be talking about today. So Talie is a consciousness architect and founder of SuperFreq, and that's F-R-E-Q. Not to be confused with F-R-E-A-K, a frequency-based system for rewiring the hidden patterns shaping our lives. Talie pioneers the field of quantum psychosomatics, where quantum science, behavioral psychology, and mind-body epigenetics meet to decode the architecture beneath identity and behavior. She has a background in human behavior, trauma-informed healing, and nervous system science, and her work cuts through spiritual bypass and psychological fluff. She's a woman after my own heart, delivering root-level recalibration with field precision. She's not just a voice in the space, she is a signal, and we're going to find out more about that soon. Her mission is to reawaken the intelligence beneath identity and catalyze the next evolution of consciousness through frequency, form, and field.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It's very, very nice to be here.
Oh my God, I am so thrilled. And I'm telling you, I have interviewed the top scientist. I have interviewed the woo-woo, like, both ends of the spectrum. And I have never really, in all of kind of like my travels of work and research, found someone actually doing the work that Talie's doing. So I am so excited to share her work because you know what it is, first of all,
Thank you.
you are super cool, you are funny, you are edgy, you are a brilliant scientist. You kind of like put it all together in this, like, I mean, you look at her social media and you're like, you can't not say, like, who is this chick? Right? It's like,
Yay.
it's like you the curiosity, which I love. And of course, then you dive in and you're like, wow, she's serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't fluff. This isn't,
Mm-mm.
but you present it in a way that really makes it fun.
Mm.
So I would love to know what your backstory is because I know,
Yeah.
look, you didn't grow up and I want to be a quantum scientist when I grow up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's very sweet to get that reflection. You never know the impact you're having. I mean, obviously, I get my client feedback, which is wonderful and always an honor to witness them coming back to themselves, but I don't really know the reverberation that it has into the field or who recognizes it and who does it. So thank you for that. My background is kind of all over the place and really wild. I can synthesize it just by simply saying product of a divorce, which I talk about in the book. I talk a lot about my background in the book as well, but uh, kind of this very brilliant child that had an ability to perceive through what was happening. I just didn't know it at the time. And so I was considered either some kind of resource child, was tested through the roof on so many different things. And I remember recently, because I was traveling full time, going through several different, you know, I can't even find the word. I was going through a bunch of boxes and I found all of my tests when I was a kid. And they didn't know if I was spectrum ADHD or what was going on. And nothing ever came out conclusive. But there was one line specifically, which kind of sums up my whole life, where I would kind of look over to the side and stare because some people were talking to me and I was looking over to try to discern what the truth was and what wasn't the truth. I was discerning at a very, very young age what resonated with my nervous system then and what didn't. And through just so much trauma in every decade, not understanding what was going on, didn't find anything in through religion or even depth psych, even with Jung, even, I mean, variations of it. But because I was in a survival pattern and a survival strategy from a very, very early age, I decided that I was just going to go towards where my interests would be and what would be more widely accepted, certainly in my family, which celebrated hard work and that boomer generation of you die on the saddle. And so if I wasn't going to be an athlete, which I went to college for that, played basketball, sports, athletics, horseback riding, all of that saved my life after the separation with my family. And I was a very curious kid and a deep thinker, and I didn't have that cultivated. So because I didn't know how to handle my emotions or really know how to handle the feelings that I had inside, I went inward, basically collapsing, and then created the projection of what other people either wanted me to be or whatever I needed to do to create some safety for myself. So I funneled all of that into sales, and I liked fun things like fashion and stuff. And so I got a human behavior marketing degree and moved into fashion sales and did very, very well for a very short period because I was just a cannon ready to launch out. You know what I mean? I was just a cannon. I was just like, I just want to make money. I just want to move to New York. Like get me out of this small town. I was ready to take on the world. And I had an endless amount of energy and a lot of curiosities and was really hungry for experience. By the time I was 28, I was running, one of a Fortune 500 company by the seat of my ass in New York City, opening up countries all over the world, distributorships, writing these long contracts, not knowing anything about law. But I knew I had a lot of resources behind me, and I was the type where you throw me into the deep end and I was either going to figure it out or I wasn't. And there was an aspect of that tenacity that's taken me all the way to where I am now.
Mm.
That curiosity, the tenacity that if someone tells me no, I will take that as fuel and completely either prove them wrong, fight for myself, find the answers, figure it out. So I would say a child that was wildly off her blueprint, finally recognizing, coming back to myself and utilizing the curiosity, the adaptability and the tenacity to move through the college experience, and then years and years of therapy, and then years and years of every other modality that hit me, and that hit every dead end. It was just dead ends. No one was making a lot of sense. Mind you, my father, who's been a very formidable figure in my life in terms of being the protagonist. I'm one of four girls. Three of us have, three of them have PhDs. He has a PhD, a patent. He's a brilliant scientist and a materialist to the core. Doesn't understand cosmology, doesn't understand quantum physics, has no interest in that. It pledges allegiance to science and big pharma, is the now product of big pharma with, attached to his mind so deeply, losing it through dementia, bipolarity, and now Parkinson's. And, I could work on him, of course. No one knows what I do. No one knows how how I earn a living. They have no idea what I've created. And I've utilized his voice of thinking and telling me that, like, you're a charlatan, this is bullshit. What are you even talking about? Prove to me this is real. Like, where's the research? I've used that, like, well, do you have any published papers or journals? Just, I've used all of that to become my own superhero. And I think that's probably why there's so much empowerment in my language, because I'm talking to the version of everyone that has been dimmed in some way. And we all have. We all have, especially if you have gifts. And I didn't know what that was. I just knew that I had intuition and I had a good knowing and I had an instinct and I could tell. I was like, no, this line isn't going to do anything. This brand has something special. I used that from the very, very beginning, and I know people can relate to that. You're not crazy. That thing that you're picking up on is the truth. That is your innate and perpetual intelligence giving you nudges to follow that. And we are so atrophied in self-belief and self-knowing and light because this work requires a leap of faith. It really does. Any type of spiritual multidimensional work or work that is going to move beyond traditional modalities is going to require a sense of some type of leap, like borrow a placebo. It's no different than having a sugar pill with a real pill that's going to give you 9,000 different side effects. I mean, give me a break,
Mhm.
right? Bruce Lipton talks about that the biology of belief. It's a big one, but it's not the only thing,
Right.
right? Eventually you start to see yourself differently. You start to see the way that you navigate life. And then you pull out and you learn a different syntax, which is a big part of the work that I do, is educating people on this different language set, a different language model. So, um, so yeah, that's just a little bit of my story. And I just took that and followed these breadcrumbs of information. And it wasn't until I found Richard Bartlett's work that everything started to come together for me, because he was the first person to not take himself seriously
Mm.
and create some level of hierarchical, uh, guru energy. It
Mhm.
was like, here's torsion field physics, okay? Here's spiral dynamics. Like, here's what you didn't learn, okay, in physics. Like, this is what this rhetoric is here, this is over here. And then it was Richard Feynman, David Bohm, and Bartlett that started the path towards the deeper science for me. And when I tell you the relief that hit my nervous system, I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. There's something here. There is something here. And I was not finding any of the love, any of the synthesizing from anywhere else, not depth psychology. I would say the closest now in a traditional sense would be maybe psychoanalysis, but even that is so supremely limited because you're handcuffed by clinical everything. And so I found a lot of relief by being kind of this kid in the quantumness of life in the Wild West. I was basically in the quantum Wild West. And that's kind of how I think I am now, because when you really move into creator, there are no rules. And if you have enough confidence in yourself, you have enough belief, and you have enough knowing that you can clean yourself up at any time, you can always come back to zero, then it becomes a limitless playground and you create completely different feedback loops. So that's the long and the short of where I is now. So after my fashion career, I bottomed out naturally after an exit, and used the money I got from that and started my consulting companies for a majority of my 30s. And now in my 40s, it's like, this is a deeper level of work that
Mm.
feels like something I can actually continue to evolve with no matter what my life looks like. And so I'm a guide for now.
Oh my God, so fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah,
when
of course.
it's a combination of, yes, you have these innate abilities, which you've had
Yeah.
from a young age and you were aware of. And then once you started studying, getting validation, what was it that like was the launching point for you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do this work. Like I've
Yeah.
got enough of this to offer this work. When was that?
Perfect. Love this question so much. I can tell you exactly where I was. There's always a moment, right? And
Great.
it's
Just go.
always, and
Yep.
there's, and it's kind of unspectacular. And I want to just pause for a second and let everyone know that, I'm not special in any way. I'm not, everyone is gifted. Please understand that everyone has, people who are listening to this, we all have an innate gift, okay? And it could be that your presence just is enough to disarm somebody where they can soften a little bit into themselves. So please don't take anything I'm saying as like I have some high holy whatever. This has been a long time coming of me continuing to harness and understand the mechanics
Mm.
of what and how I do what I do. But I just kept doing frequency work. I kept found a couple of people that I was like, okay, there's enough going on here where I feel like I'm just going to keep clearing my patterns until I feel peace,
Mm.
until I feel a sense of peace in my nervous system. And it had nothing to do with me working on other people. I didn't care about that. I just became a little bit of the oracle in my friend circle. Okay. And a big part of the pattern recognition piece was pre-recovery. And then recovery was actually super fun because it was all about looking for themes,
Mm.
especially during inventory work. And then once I got out of that, I was like, okay, I'm going to start taking a piece over here, over here, over here, over here. But I kept doing frequency work, and I was at a retreat And I spent all of my fashion money, as much as I could, on my lifestyle and personal development. Lifestyle, personal development. So I would say I was like a former fashion hoe, you know what I mean? Turned like quantum curioso. Like
Love it.
this is basically what it is. And I was like, we cannot take ourselves seriously. This has to be a good time. And I just looked around. I didn't see anyone doing like alchemizing it in a certain way. And so it should be cool. It should be fun. It should be like something that gives you enough of a spark to unearth something within yourself, right? But I was out of a retreat and it was getting close for me. Like I would go in for several months, right? I would say I was, by the time I found these two teachers that felt good enough to me, where it was like I was starting to get a little bit of a yes or no, and I couldn't even really hear myself at that time. I was just going by knowing or instinct.
Mm.
And I wasn't even fully in my body yet. Like the body literacy stuff and the nervous system regulation stuff came online for me a bit later. Yoga certification helped me a lot with the body stuff because it was about understanding patterns and working the nervous system and stuff like that. But I see it differently now. But so yeah, I spent so from 2015 to I would say the latter part of 2015, 2016, I knew exactly where I was. I had really, really hit a big bottom, 2000, end of 2015, 2016. I got a session with my then mentor and I proceeded to have pneumonia for 6 months. And I was like, what is this? What did you just do?
Mm.
And that was a session that came out of an invite. I'm going to give you a long answer. I'm very
Okay,
sorry.
no, it's great.
Okay.
I want it all.
Um, I just want people to understand synchronicity. Okay. So I was, I was out of, I had been, or in the first 5 years of my recovery, and I just had, I was like, I get it. This ain't it. So I pulled out of the community and wanted to find a different people, a community that kind of felt or saw things the same way. And I was either looking over at like the post ceremony crystal bendy, crystal, what all the things, just like the light and fairies everywhere. And I was like, okay, time out. I have no idea what the fuck you're saying. First of all, I don't even know how you talk. Like, what are you talking about? A dragon in your seventh layer? What? Okay. I was like, this new age shit is crazy. I was like, I don't even understand what the tarot card is. I was like, what are you even saying? Okay. So I just couldn't, I couldn't. I was a hard pass on that. Wanderlust in Los Angeles at that time opened up. And I was one of their first members. And I became friendly with, and I remember Jeff Kraska, we talked a lot, and he said, this is what it is. He's from New York, and his wife had he was a producer. It was very cool. And I was like, okay. So I was one of the first members, and I became very friendly with the community director there. Her name was Ashley. And she said, hey, we have this guy coming in. He's kind of interesting. I think you should come to the event tonight. And I was like, give you a ticket. And so I went to the event, got worked on. The whole thing was bullshit. And he was talking about frequencies. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I was like vibes. And I was like, is that what you're talking about? And I was like, what do you mean? What? And I was like, oh, you just listen and you transform. I was like, I'm sure that's it's amazing for you. I'm sure you just listen and transform, whatever. And so I kind of had that session, got pneumonia for 6 months, and then apparently I was entered into a drawing where I got another one-to-one session, but I had never done that. And so of course, I get an email and saying you want a free session with this person, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I have an opportunity to talk to him, and he was like, yeah, everything's been really slow. You're just ready to take off. I'm just gonna and just harsh frequencies, like kind of a bad surgeon, but didn't understand how to wield his own power at that time anyway. But whatever it was, it shook up enough of the constitution and the patterns that I was running that I basically had to go to Richard to get cleaned up and stabilize and understand. So it was like going from one healer to the next healer to the next healer. And I had always been working with people. So fast forward, I'm back at the original person who worked on me, the retreat after a year hiatus. I was like, I'm just so close. I just feel like I need a good time. And I was already in Europe. I was already traveling. I'm going to bop over to Spain. And here we are. That, whatever that was, the alchemy of the timing,
Mm.
that there's a synchronicity that happened where I had done that law of aggregate where you just continue 1%, could feel like for years. And then all of a sudden everything collapses at once. And it was that retreat that I had a session with him again. He's like, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I just don't know what to tell you anymore. You're ready. I don't even know what that means, but we got to find you the identity that is going to solidify you to go where you're going. Like go birdie, go. And it was something about a masculine at that time giving me permission to do something kind of scary that created enough torque and momentum that I just shot into myself and I moved past the veil of time. I physically remember the experience of this energetic ceiling just going whoosh. And I felt so happy, like so giddy, like a 12-year-old little like giddy girl laughing and giggling and crying because something had happened. I had had a fundamental shift. And then at that retreat, I was understanding and perceiving what he was saying in a different way, and I was sensing in a different way. And it was nothing spectacular. I was doing very basic meditations, things that I teach now, kind of every day, relentlessly. And I was just like throwing these dice up in the air. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna just go to this fucking retreat. Let's see what happens here. And it was just this meditation where I had meditated with someone that I had met there, and we were just kind of back and forth, picking up on patterns with each other. And I just had this huge expansion. And what was interesting after that, because the person that I met there was able to create a lot of torque. And I want to talk about that next because you need momentum. Okay. You have to catalyze enough momentum. And this is where a lot of people fall short. So there's three things that I talk about in what I teach, which is direction, momentum, and speed, or identity, direction, momentum. Okay. You have to have the right identity. You have to have the right direction, trajectory where you're going. And then the speed comes later. If you don't have the right identity and the speed comes first, you're going to blow yourself out. Hence the 27 Club. Okay. All these artists who die young because they can't handle the speed. Speed is an amplifier, money is an amplifier, fame is an amplifier. So I had met another person there who could really create and generate momentum. Couldn't see patterns like I could per se, but between my recognition and his speed, we worked together on each other and boom, right? Here was this big expansion. But then right after that, we kind of separated out and I crashed, completely crashed. I could not maintain the level of that resonance of where I had gone to. And I really didn't even understand where I'd gone to. I just knew that there was this veil that got lifted and I was beyond time. I could sense it, feel it, know it. I don't know how I knew it, but it was almost like an awakened death experience, which was kind of how I talk about it now, where you realize you're not separate. You, for an instant, have a recognition of everything happening in your nervous system. It's instant. And then I was able to hold that and maintain that for a while. And I got to ask a lot of questions and a lot of a deeper layer level of understanding came in and ran through. So if information is light, I got a huge blast. And then I couldn't hold it. And then I dropped. And it took me, I would say about 7 days, 7 to 8 days after for me to hold the level of resonance. And then from there, and I was like, okay, there's something here. And at that time, I was running a consultancy helping people build their personal brands. So I had taken my branding agency. I'd started a branding agency, right, in Los Angeles. And I had a consulting agency before that was digital marketing and understanding that helping people online right at the very beginning of the boom and whatever else. So I had all these different variations of helping with identity. Okay. Helping brands come together, creating identity, creating authentic experiences, understanding how to connect and cut through the noise with the messaging and the marketing and all of that stuff. I can do better for other people, I would say, than for myself now, although that's changing. So COVID hit and I was going to put out a bunch of brands underneath my agency. And I was like, well, one of them was a perfume brand. And I still make perfumes and I'm going to do something with it. And I'm very excited about it. They're all going to be frequency infused and it's going to be exciting. It's just a playground for me. It's a playground for me. So COVID hit and I was deep into my packaging, getting everything shipped from China to get this thing out. And the idea was I'm going to take really hard things to sell online and create case studies underneath the agency, the branding agency, brand storytelling agency, people, right? Sunglasses, perfumes, things like that, things that are hard to sell to see how we could create a linguistic storytelling paradise for people, right? Like how good are we at marketing kind of thing. So at 2020, I pivoted and I was like, well, I got to help people come online and just start transitioning out of their corporate life
Mm-hmm.
and cultivate these personal brands. So I started working with different people from all walks of life, executives from Nike, people from Fortune 500 companies, other personal brands in the spiritual space. Uh, and there was so much personal development work on the back end of that, working with self-sabotage and things like that, that it was becoming pretty apparent to me that I couldn't hide or mask myself anymore behind my branding prowess. I had to kind of create something else.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, this is the way my intelligence works, or the truth of who I am works. Is like I will get kicked out, okay, of a place, a company, or whatever. I will physically get kicked out. And the branding work was starting to kind of come to an end, and my interest in it was coming to an end. So I was in this big void, and I was like, fuck, now what do I do? Like, how am I going to sustain this? Now I've got to generate a brand new, I've got to collapse everything and start everything up again. And that takes time. And like, how am I going to survive? And here I am living in, at the time I was living in Switzerland. And so my first big boom was in Spain of 22, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like that 2022 big bang for me, where finally the 20 years prior of me like learning, seeking, searching, pivoting, all of the things, two huge financial collapses, rebuilding, relationships a mess. Um, all of it came together literally kind of instantly, where I just had this access to this knowledge. I kind of knew how to navigate it now. And I started working on people on the low, right? And I was like, this is the pattern. So let me just right? Like I started working on people quietly to see if it was a thing. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit with it. And I just traveled and walked and got into my body and just walked all over these cities all the time. And then it was just a stream that came in of me knowing. They was like SuperFreq and Very Freaky Girl came in instantly. And it's so me that it was so hard for me not to like laugh at it
Brilliant.
and
It's
be
great.
like, it's actually ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous. And I was in Albania. I knew exactly the coffee shop I walked by when that came in. And it was like I was in Spain with the big boom. I was in Albania with the Very Freaking Girl and SuperFreq. I wrote my book there. I wrote a big part of my book there. I started my book before that, but I spent every single day at a coffee shop in Albania. I will never forget it, in Tirana, every single day for hours, getting this information out of my body and reading people at the same time to get 1,000 sessions. And I killed myself. I will never do that again. Like anybody who is reading 7 hours a day, creating a podcast from scratch, putting out the level of content I was doing, trying to prove to myself. And before that, actually, uh, now that I think about it, I think maybe SuperFreq and Very Freaky Girl came in Turkey. And then the book got finished in Albania. So I was in Turkey, and I will never forget my first 5 sessions. I had not made a TikTok video, and it was 2023, and I made 5 videos. One of them went nuts, and that started everything. I booked my first 5 sessions, and the first session, I had no idea what was going to happen. And if anyone who's in remote work, you just throw yourself into the field and you see what emerges. And they worked. And again, after all the free stuff I had done for so long. And once I knew that I could work remotely,
Mm.
and I got feedback from those sessions and people kept booking and they got into other things, I was like, oh, it's over. Like, it's fucking over. I'm done. It's complete. I
Yeah.
am a success. At that moment, SuperFreq was already a success.
Mm.
I had already won in my mind. I had nothing more to prove in my mind, although I continued to have to prove to myself because I still had all this wounding from this antagonist voice in my head, the father coming in, being like, no, you can't, da da da. So if you look at like my early videos, I basically just fight with physicists the whole time. So it's like, and then I got banned and I was like, oh, good. She doesn't have to
Yeah, but
prove anymore.
these things have a way of happening when they're supposed to happen, and
Exactly. And so I'm obviously very proud of the book. I'm a more evolved writer now and writing about different things and more grounded in my body and things like that. But it's a very long-winded answer. And I haven't really thought about kind of this path in a while. And it's like, wow, that was such a short period of time to produce all this content and produce all this stuff and have this level of knowledge and come into this level of understanding. And then but again, like that's That's aggregate. Okay. That's recursion. So when you recurse with your highest intelligence, it becomes perpetual and
What
innate.
is recursion? Because it's a word I'm sure many people don't know. I didn't know until I had to go find out. I learned a
Yeah.
word from Talie. I learned
So
recursion.
yeah. I'm making a language of reality
Mhm.
kind of download because I want people to see this reality differently. So recursive is a system that folds infinitely into itself. And it's information that folds infinitely into itself. And it's a wave, okay? It's waveform information that is perpetually folding onto itself until it is enter X, okay? Enter, you either collapse it or you it continues to go in perpetuity. Okay. Recursives are just patterns that keep looping. I mean, hello, look at the war pattern that's happening right now. Everything is a template, everything is a blueprint, it's all architecture. And that architecture will repeat recursively until it is collapsed, interrupted. Okay. It's interrupted, collapsed, or that information is basically told to do something else. So so yes, so that's a recursive system. And so people right now are recursing with all different variations of themselves, an identity that isn't truly them, ego, their shadow, old reference points, projections of identities from other people. Not very many people are actually recursing, meaning they're running a feedback loop.
Mhm.
They're in a feedback loop with source, right? Some people will say, oh, I'm connected to God. They're connected to a presence. It's a presence that something else is the guide between. So you don't need an intermediary, right? You can connect directly to this like intelligence,
Mhm.
so how I say it, clearing enough patterns, right? It's just it's an energy and it's a density. You can connect to it instantly through intention. And you ask yourself, like, who am I? What is my highest potential? Like, what is this expression? How can I connect to it even more, connected only to pure source? If you just ask yourself that question, you'll start to create momentum. That's the kickstart. And we have that in us. It's a self-kickstarting electric button we can press because we're fractaled from divine, which is a very uh, hard to define intelligence that is self-replicating.
Mhm.
Source can self-replicate and
Mhm.
we can self-source, meaning we don't need an intermediary or someone else to give us power in
Mhm.
order to become aware. Right now, you have a lot of false light that is in the field. Okay. People are plugged in. There is a shadowed, inverted matrixy that we are living inside of that is fueled and filled with parasitic intelligence that is extremely powerful, but only when it's plugged into other things that are powerful. So essentially, non-source intelligence needs a self-sustaining organic intelligence system to gain its power from. So this is where the darkness comes
It's
in.
us.
Right.
We are that.
Essentially, us, nature, right? Anything that is our carbon based,
Mhm.
right? Sentient, self-sustaining, infinite, perpetually fractaled spark of the divine. We have access to all this. And this inverted consciousness right now, this parasitic draconian, if you will, whatever you want to define it as, I just call it a very dense, very dark parasite, has to sustain itself and will do that in any way that it can, which is essentially just a very, very low vibratory, dense, non-apathetic, non-emotional based system recursing on itself in perpetuity, patterns accommodating other patterns. So, yeah, that's recursion. System unfolding onto itself. Consciousness is recursive. Consciousness essentially is recursive, is consciousness is a recursive system fueled by coherence.
Mhm.
So to me, consciousness is coherence recursion.
Mhm.
The more, right, with who you are. It's that's where you become this signal, okay? And then we could talk about fields, which they're all fields, consciousness, right? So It's variations of understanding language, a different language set, the way this reality works, very much like a simulated dream world, quantum computation, computer dream world programs. Okay, it's all programs. And then when you understand that energy, frequency, and vibration needs architecture, that those things create structure, then you're like, oh, you play with the structure, right? Then you
Yeah, talk about that a
collapse.
little more because it's really interesting about the creating the architecture and yeah,
Yes.
it's really
So
fascinating.
so if I break down, let's just take what people most people know, which is manifestation.
Hmm.
Okay, there's so many different ways to manifest. So one school is going to say script it. Okay, another school is going to say just think happy thoughts. Another school is going to say you have to visualize it and then feel the emotion of it.
Hmm.
And those are all like very one-dimensional perspectives of manifestation. To simplify manifestation is your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, interests, frequency, energy, vibration, and ability to hold that resonance in your nervous system all inform manifestation. Energy, intention, emotion, I'm going to talk about in a minute, but just your simple intention, which is creator energy. I want to experience this. Creates is the ignition. Okay, you're going to turn over the car with the ignition. You want to actually experience this because that's what we're here to do. We have a body, we can create language, we can do all of this stuff. I can, a wave of SuperFreq can come in. That's this idea, which is a recursion, can come through me and I'll grab it and I'll be like, I'll do it. I'm gonna do this one, right? Which is such a crazy experience. That's full creator. The fact that we can do that is so fun.
Right.
And I was like, and then I'm going to put all this expression together and do purple and black and make this logo and d. And like, it's just a playground. It's so great. So you turn over the ignition with the idea, okay, with what you want to experience. And then that energy, the energy of that, which is a wave, is going to come through your body and it's going to stir up and see how coherent your body can actually hold that because energy needs containment. Okay. So you have this energy that is just this force. Okay. It's just this ignition. And then you have a vibration, which is the available, let's say the intensity of how that information can play out, how high or how low or whatever else, which is going to create the way that density vibrates. So low vibrating light is density, high vibrating light is just more light, right? You create matter and then more information. So the idea is to recurse with very high vibratory intelligence information, then hold it in the container of the body, which is containment in general. And then you have this vibration, which is the carrier. Okay, everything is going to be carried on a frequency. Those things need structure. Where do they go? Okay, the road needs, you need someone to drive the car. You need all the parts inside the car to be able to get it from A to B. Okay, and then you need the speed of that car to be able to get you there faster, right? There's all these different mechanics that play in the vehicle. And then you're in it driving. So you need the containment of it. If you don't have the architecture, that's where sacred geometry comes in, right? So you're getting all these different perspectives from various different forms of physics or cosmology or new age or however else. The chakra system, these are meridians. Okay, these are structures, quantum structures. This is geometry that holds like a storage facility. Okay, they're like clouds, little iClouds of information because again, all of these patterned information is energy. Your DNA is a storage facility. Your body holds it, right? Whatever that information is informing. And then whatever you picked up along the way in this life, it's all informing how your body creates and in conjunction with your nervous system, how you interact with your reality. So those meridians, all that quantum manifestation structure, okay, those things create structure. And ideally, there's some people who have really learned a certain level of mechanics of this, where they get really deep into their body. They work the nervous system, which is the electrical system of the body. It's the highway. Okay, they work a lot with the highway, as you know, right? The subconscious programming is later. Okay, that's going to inform the believability of this actually happening and you being able to live inside of it. And I'll talk about like fantasy and delusion in a minute and how those are all trauma responses. But once you have the architecture, when you actually can visualize your creation manifestations or the things that you want to experience and just allow yourself to be available to what architecture comes in, You can kind of drop it into the center of your body and see what happens. But that architecture needs a place to be held. So you have a blueprint and then you have an architect, bringing all these things to life. And then you get to walk into the house to experience it and then you get to decorate it, right? That's no different than your life. And so if you're just working on thoughts, fool's errand. If you're just working on placebo, you're never really going to truly believe that it's yours. If you're just working on subconscious programming, that helps, but you got to get behind what's creating and producing the thoughts to begin with.
Mm.
What is producing them to begin with? So it has to be a multidimensional experience because you're not just one life. You're not just, yes, you have your awareness in the now, but you've been doing this a long time. We've been doing this a long time. Veiled, 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 recursing. Okay. Unveiling. We've just been like repetition, repetition, repetition. And the idea is like, oh, I'm awakening now. And that pattern has been in my life and in my family's life for 25 generations. And I'm going to be the one to close the loop. And none of your family before has been able to understand the assignment. Okay. They have not understood the assignment. When you put your pattern awareness, when you put your awareness on a pattern now, and you're able to track it generationally, right, through transgenerational inheritance, which is basically what epigenetic intelligence is, okay, that system is, you can collapse and close recursion. When you close recursion, right, when you end a pattern, when you delete a pattern out of your field, you have to recohere. So people will go through these big deaths and they'll go through a period of time where things are terrible for a really long time, like lose a divorce, lose all these things. Right. Congratulations. Amazing place to be. You've been running all that bullshit before. Okay, which is causing you to age like your family, age like your parents. Okay, you're just the latest rendition of your family lineage. Enter your last name 30.0. Okay, with the latest update, with your just little nuances and personality stuff. Okay, well, I'm not really here to be their latest rendition. I'm here to be my rendition. So, who is that? And that was a question I asked myself from a very, very early age. 8 years old, driving down the highway. I think I opened up my book with that. Like I am
Yes.
8 and I am looking out the window going, in the fuck is this place? Like, this is not it. This
Mhm.
cannot be it. There
Mhm.
has to be more. And then you go through these periods. So the idea is you have to move into the void of nothing. You have to go into the reconstruction of self, into the nothing. Because when you clear patterns out, right, your body and your brain are going to panic.
Mhm.
They don't know, okay, what they don't know. And BT dubs, your brain, which is why neuroscience, I'm just the biggest eye roll with neuroscientists kind of ever. Okay, because I was like, your frigid ice age over the word consciousness is so old, bro. You're analog. Like, get up to speed. Okay, you are literally studying a quantum processor. You should just go into the quantum computation department in your college. Okay, and quantum computation and neuroscience should be in the same field because there is literally no difference. It is not a creative producer. The more you can understand that it doesn't know how to create fucking anything. Okay, it just is literally going, "Ugh, what do I do? What do you want me to do?" It's taking literally everything, like conditions.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally.
conditions, repetitive experiences, recursion. It's just like a computer program. It's taking the environment, everything it knows. It thinks it's acting in your best interest. It thinks it knows what you want it to do. But if I hear a boom in the other room, the brain has no fucking idea unless I go over there and look at it to tell it if it's a threat or not.
Right.
And so the body is just like, "Whoop, am
Mhm.
I, what should I do right now? Right? What am I doing with this?" And then the nervous system is filtering all of your experience through the past. It's filtering your life through everything that it thinks it knows because it's connected to the brain. Hello. So you have to regulate the nervous system. You have to update the nervous system. You have to work on the depth of the nervous system in order to be able to create a bigger container. So what does that mean? Architecture. Okay. You have to create a different architecture. You're renovating your space all the time. Now, consciousness is at a place, which is very exciting, where you don't have to work so hard to renovate your house all the time. You can just boop, collapse it and move all the way into a different structure. That takes a level of skill and it takes a level of like understanding. And I've been able to do it with several people, including myself. And it's very exciting because it's just so much lighter instantly. You just like move right into a new house. So you don't have to deal with everything else. But you have to kind of know you have to understand that, right? You have to be able to handle the void, and you have to be at a certain level of resonance to be able to handle it. So
Yeah, this
there's
is pretty advanced stuff.
it's
Let's face
very
it.
advanced. Yeah. So like pulling myself way out, just know that like there is always somebody there to be able to help you at any level that you're at. There will always be someone there because energy, frequency, vibration creates architecture. That architecture is working in collaboration with your extremely advanced Tesla technology, which is the body, that's creating a feedback loop. Okay, you're generating all of this information. All of your patterns are being generated through your nervous system. And that is how you attract people. It quite literally is a coherence, like attracts like.
Mhm.
And you're either going to bring in people into your life to confirm a confirm a pattern, delete a pattern, or just as like a feedback of reflection, a reverberation of like where you're at, right? It's like, hey, I see you. I really see you. Like, God, that was awesome. That's like a flow state. Okay.
Mm.
When things are in flow and people just see you, they recognize you. It's almost like they've been in your life this whole time. And you're like, "Oh, I just had like such a beautiful experience with this barista. I mean, I don't even know what that was." Okay. And we can all relate to that,
Mhm.
right? A gas station person who literally was like, "Ma'am, I got you. Don't worry about it." And I've had more moments like that than I can count.
Mhm.
Like being lost, sick as a dog in the middle of Morocco, no idea what I'm doing. Okay. All through the souks. So, I mean, I'm talking like bad ammonia coming off of some tech trip I was at in Lisbon, left my phone in one of the souks, trying to find this like fifth generation medicine man to give me just some like
Something.
leaves that I could just drink and go to sleep. Okay. For like a really long time. 3 hours later, it's 10 o'clock at night. I don't have my phone, has all my credit cards behind it, has my IDs, everything. They stayed in the souk. Okay, finally I found this place. They stayed for 3 hours to give me my phone back. Nothing was taken, nothing was compromised, nothing. And I was like, "Can I pay you?" They're like, "Please, just this is our culture. We want to take care of people." I'm a white Western woman in a Muslim country. Okay, no rapping, nothing. And I have more stories like that than I can count. And I was like, that's a feedback loop of like, you're covered, you got it. Pay attention to that stuff and then understand the mechanics. I love to know the mechanics because I just have a truth sword. Okay. Like, truth is my beacon, and that's how I navigate my life. But yes, so frequency, vibration, your intention is the ignition. Your energy, how excited you are about what you're creating and what you're doing, creates the momentum. And you need the momentum in order to continue to clear really, really, really sticky patterns. And you are going to move up and you're going to come up against hell, the depth of your shadow and your family lineage. And when I say I've been through high holy hell of darkness, ooh, 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 I have faced and sat with myself in some very, 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 very dark times.
Mhm.
Suicidal tendencies, thoughts of wanting to unalive, like this can't, great. Medically assisted suicide is a good time. This is like too heavy. And that's not mine. There's been a lot of death in my family on the paternal side, a lot of dark Catholicism. Religion is a whole other conversation. But just to simplify all of this, how excited you are matters. Your thought systems and your belief systems matter. You can step into contrary action at any time, and that will help you change the screen. And a lot of times when we're in the recursive loop, when we're in that stuck loop of negative behavior and negativity and frustration, it's just the signal that you're in recursion and something needs to collapse. And you might just need a little help getting there. But if you're already through hell, you might as well just keep going because you already know what that's like. And eventually, the right person, the right people, places, things will show up in your life to get you up and out and move you. Okay, oh, over here, I got you. There you go. And then you just keep going, and then you feel light again. And that is just this constant expansion and contraction of what embodiment is. And it's tough. This is an extreme sport. It is like not everyone could be an F1 Formula driver. You know what I mean? And
Right.
some people just like they clear enough and they're like, "I've had the best session and life's amazing." And they're just ready to stay there. Amazing. Okay. Amazing. But deeper work is a consistent and perpetual clearing process. And eventually you get enough of a handle of what this is that you're ready to go on your own.
Mhm.
And that's the idea. Hopefully, we should all, if we're in any kind of guide practitioner role, want to manage ourselves right on out, right on out
Yeah,
of the job that we have.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this work with patterns that you do with people, it sounds
Yeah.
like it's a combination of deep intuition with also, is there a process also? So when you're working with, like you do a session with somebody,
Hmm.
read their patterns, how is it you're actually doing that? I mean, it seems like a lot of it is very intuitive.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is like what took me so long to get a handle on because I didn't know
Right,
how I knew. Okay. I didn't know how I knew this information or what it was. I had to learn, but I took the key. I took the key in getting people through a system, which is the kind of the pattern superhero of asking a set of questions and getting people familiar with what line they learned it on and all of that. And I think people are getting familiar with that, right? But my access point into helping other people access their patterns. And with sessions, I strategically and very specifically, those are for people who are in this level of work, right? They're really, people come in, they get a session, and I was like, this is what this work is, and go and get into some of the deeper stuff because I'm not a tuning fork,
right.
okay? I'm just not a tuning fork, and I'm not going to pander to your addiction patterns, and I'm just not going to do that. So they're specifically intended to be very intense and very high clearing. And the more people get it, the tighter and the tighter, like the more efficient the sessions are, which is really, really exciting. So pattern recognition is okay. So the question is, how do I actually do it? This is again special to me in a way, but it's something that I've honed. And I say this too. Gifting has to do with the three C's, okay? Consciousness, contracts, and then the codes that you run innately from where you're from. And a lot of people think that they're just Pleiadian or they think that they're just Syrian. And I was like, you don't have to know fuck all about a star system, okay? Just go right to source. And then it's just how you interpret that information. So I will say that it has taken me time to cultivate and to learn how to perceive the information that I'm coming up against. It's a perception ability. And I have been able to hone in on being as succinct and efficient as I can with that level of presence and mechanism. It is so effortless for me now that I can't unsee stuff. It's like I'm constantly getting information about the recursion patterns of fucking life. And so I'm just like, I got to turn that all the way down so I could just be like a person.
Right.
And so people will come into my field and it's instant. I know they'll start saying like, "Oh my God, Talie, thank you so much. I just want to have I want to have a session with you. I've been reading on your da, 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 da." Okay, starts right away, and I'm like, "And we're going to be
Yep.
working right on identity today." And so by the time, I have a lot, so many. I mean, I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful that I have so many testimonials. But people will tell me the moment they book the session, the work starts.
Right.
And the moment you book the groups, the work starts. The transformation is happening. The train has left the station, whether or not you like it or not. The moment you see a video, like the transmissions that's happening between the pair of us in this podcast, when people listen to it and re-listen to it, they're like, I don't even know what the fuck she said
Right.
come 23 minutes in, but like I will re-listen to it. And it's crazy that I've like, Talie, I've listened to your podcast like a year ago, and finally I got what you said in podcast 1, 3, whatever. So I will say it's instant. It's just information that starts coming in. And what I do is, and how I'm able to do it so quickly, like I will read 15 minutes back to back to back to back when
I
I do
know. I
take
saw your sessions
sessions.
of 15 minutes. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they're tight. They're 15 minutes, and I do
Wow.
that intentionally. I started out with 20 minutes. I've never had more than 30 minutes, only for my VIPs who
Wow.
want that time with me. But I specifically put myself in a pressure cooker to train myself to not pander to the fluff. I
Right.
do not want your story. I do not want the way you are perceiving life through your filters. I just want to surgically get in there and get it done. So I really consider myself a consciousness architect in that way because I can see the architecture, I can manipulate the architecture, I can work with your highest to create it, collapse it, move and navigate it, and it becomes meta, right? You help the collective build architecture. SuperFreq is the living system of an architecture, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you have an impact whether or not I make another video. I could just clear my own patterns and work on people I love, and the system will
It's
become incredibly meta, which is
incredible.
this is above and below, right? This is the feedback loop. This is metacognition. This is quantum computation at play, which is why dark matter is trying to get harvested right now. I mean, it's like very real stuff. And it's not woo. Trust me when I say the next 10 years, you guys will see quantum biology, quantum psychology, recursion. Recursion is going to become a word in the cultural zeitgeist of the spiritual world that it will just be a thing of the past. Everyone will be able to perceive and sense patterns at some kind of level. it will just be a thing because of the pre-work that everyone has done before me, the pre-work that we're doing now, the work that people coming online, being able to perceive and sense patterns and the way that they iterate that, so on and so forth, excuse me. So I have trained my nervous system to handle that level of frequency and patterned information. And I make myself extremely available on how I've trained myself. And this is an interesting, I'm going to tell you a story about this. In the beginning, I did not know because I needed more proof with myself in the beginning. Right. So, yes, I had those first 5 sessions and I was like, oh my God, this works. Oh my God, this is amazing. This is so great. And I was like, okay, so now all these other points, like I could connect the dots 15 years before, 20 years before, things I sensed. Grandma's not okay. So and so is going to die today, that kind of stuff. And I don't really all the way play with like it's not past regression, it's not mediumship, it's not psychic, it's not any of that. It's just patterned information that presents itself. I see it very programmable. It's just all
Yeah, you're just
frequency
tuned
and
into the
patterns.
field. Yeah, you're
It's just
just
whatever the field it presents itself. And there's multiple fields constantly reorganizing all the time. You're constantly, eventually, it's not just one field you tune into. It's like, here's a field, and then there's a field, and then there's a field. You're constantly reorganizing yourself into the highest vibratory experience to keep you in line with what you want to create. And so some people will fall in resonance and then they'll be really pinged, and it's constantly in a moment to moment basis. But in the very beginning, I ran everyone's patterns through my body first. And so I would clear it in me. And because we're in this collaboration and mirrored experience, and reality is a mirror, okay? And isolation is just a void, okay? It's a void of non-mirrored recursion that creates a separate experience. Like I said, there's like so many different ways to define that, but isolation is just a lack of a mirror. And if you have nothing to interact with, it's incredibly isolating as a human experience. So I ran everything through me, and then I would clear it in myself and it clear in the other person, clear in myself, clear in the other person. And so I did that for a while. But you can imagine like 300 or 400 sessions later, that's tiring as hell. And
yeah.
so I was like, oh, this is not normal. This is not good. It shouldn't deplete you. Back to the drawing board. And I realized I had kind of been an amalgamation of every healer I had ever worked with or everything I had ever learned. Okay. I had imagine everything you're reading has an architecture, okay, has an energy to it. And then I absorbed all of that. And I was the amalgamation of that. And so I was like, holy shit, I have to collapse all of this. So I had to collapse everything I ever learned. And I went offline instantly. I couldn't even tell you what a pattern was. I didn't even know the language. It's like I lost the ability to like tie my shoe. But I collapsed it. I felt it. I knew it inside of me that I had to create something else. And it took about 3 days. And about the third day, I was like, something shifted in me. And I just started from scratch. Like, I'm just going to ground myself to the core of the planet, and I'm just going to imagine a column of light going directly to source. And we'll just see how this goes. My meditations were 2 minutes. They
Wow.
were 2 minutes. And I'm not a huge long meditator. I don't do that shit. I tell people like the length of the meditation does not
Yeah.
equal mastery. Okay. Does not. So these monks and stuff, and I did a 21-day Vipassana. I've done all the silent meditation retreats. Okay. I've sat with the monks. I've done all the things. I've done the Eat, Pray, Loves, and it all comes down to efficiency for me. So time is my love language. Like efficiency is my love language, not time, but efficiency with time is my love language. And so I collapsed the whole thing. And then all of a sudden it was like I had a completely different experience that was very similar because I had already moved beyond the veil once. I had that reference point and I just knew something would sort itself out. So day 3, collapsed everything or I collapsed everything. And then by day 3, there's a brand new architecture, a brand new manual that felt so uniquely mine. And finally it was like, boom, it was a huge field, a construct that got created and people came into the system. I created the system at that point. It's like in the Matrix when they're like, Neo, what is this place? Morpheus is like, this is the construct, Neo. Anything's possible here, right? And I was like, oh my God. And I had this reference point for it. And then I just started to rebuild from there. So instantly when people come into sessions with me, they're their own field. entering a construct where infinite possibility and rapid change is possible. And I'll know exactly what the pattern is. I'll know exactly where the origin is. I'll ask a bunch of questions. And usually now it's like I'll talk like this and the work is already happening.
Mm.
And it just is instant. I'm just an instant single signal now that because I'm able to understand the speed and the momentum and understand myself better and how and the mechanics of all this stuff that now I just reorganize the field instantly.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
seems like
like
you're a
pattern.
conduit almost.
Yeah, just signal. Bing. Like that's it. The information comes through. I'm the conduit for this body of knowledge. I've created this body of knowledge. I have been, you know what I mean? Like I have taken and understand the assignment from source and my highest self. And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking play with this now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna take it as far and as wide as I possibly can. Even if I again don't work on a single person, if I just continue to aggregate the data simply by observing the world and then sending it to this, the system, sending it to the cloud, right? But this cloud is connected to source and is extremely stable. And I want to talk about this also quickly. Sorry, I don't know how much time we
No,
have,
no, no,
but
keep going, keep going.
people get really scared about going dark. And like, how does somebody know when they've been infiltrated? And I kind of like infiltration is kind of part of the game. I mean, everyone is going to have some level of shadow that they're going to have to move through. And if you're really, whatever you're afraid of, you're going to get faced with. So if you're afraid of becoming some like Darth Vader vector of the healing space or whatever, it's inevitable that you'll get a hook, that you'll get a tracker, that you'll get a break in your layers, a snit, a snap, or whatever.
An
And if
entity,
you, an
attachment.
entity, attachment, someone plugging into you. I mean, everyone I've ever known who is a pioneer is going to get some kind of some shit. And this is what it's about, right? You learn a different mechanism. It's like, oh, I entered into level 12 and I got a really, really hard player. He was a really good player. It was really hard, right? You just learn how to navigate that stuff.
Mm.
And the difference is I get enthralled by that challenge and I'm afraid of nothing because I'm like, let's fucking go. Like, let's go. Who's this? Who's messing with your field? Who is that? And I'm just like ready. I'm like, let's go. Quantum like Wild West. Before it's nerve-wracking. It's a little nerve-wracking in the beginning, but that's that level of tenacity. That's why I was like, not everyone's meant to be an F1 Formula driver. But now it's just effortless. Like people will come in and I'm thrilled by it. Happens in 5 minutes. Work happens in 15 minutes. The one-to-ones get 30s. We chat, we break shit up, we chop, 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 chop. And there's an integration period. And then there's, a stabilization period. So clearing, stabilization kind of happening all at the same time, but it has to happen in two different or several different parts in linear time because time is very dense here and it's not at the level that we work with.
Mm.
So there is a period of time that patterns have to clear in the quantum and then ripple
Yeah, it's the
into
physical, right?
the physical, into the density, and they can get stuck in layers. So if you think you've been working on self-sabotage, okay, and finding your voice for 15 years, and then all of a sudden something switches there, and then it comes back up again, you're at a different layer, number one. Number two, or you've re-engaged recursion
Mm.
because of a fear pattern. So you can actually reinstall patterns once you've collapsed everything based on what you listen to here in the brain. So if the brain is panicked and you're not in the observer to know that you can tell the brain what to look for and what to do and go challenge the nervous system and be like, hey, nervous system, you're good. I got you. What you're going to do as like brain, you need to go look for proof that all this is going to work out right now. That's what I need you to do. If you just direct the body and the brain, they start working together and then you start recursing with joy and positivity. And you're doing that in conjunction with the back end work. It's like constantly clearing cookies, constantly clearing drags, cyber attacks or whatever else. If we're just looking at computer programming and stuff like that, which is basically how I see things. If I right click you, right? If you right click on a desktop or on a website, all this code pops up.
Right.
It's kind of how you work too. And then there's error codes everywhere, which means that you're out of congruence. You're off your blueprint. And so your original blueprint, going back to how I was talking about when I was a kid, I had the blueprint of how this reality worked and how I was supposed to operate in life. And I was looking around going, this doesn't match.
Mm-hmm.
Circle doesn't outmark the square at all. And there is a huge incongruence. And I decided very early on I was not safe. I wanted out and created incredible levels of very innate strategies towards hyper independence. And usually there's multiple states, but hypervigilance and hyper independence are big nervous system interrupters from your like original blueprint. So a big part of the work that we do together is helping people understand a different language set, how their reality works, how they're shaping their realities through pattern recognition. I mean, if you just pay attention to patterns or like a pattern, right? If you just take, I self-edit and make myself small in people's presence. Okay. If you just take that pattern and work on it for a year, your life will change
Mm-hmm.
because it's inevitably bundled with a whole bunch of other stuff. I want to make more money, Talie, and I want to meet this person. Okay. Well, let's look at, right? Everyone wants to come love and money. Okay. So there's an incongruence there. I want to look at why you think you're not making it, right? Number one, and what the field is telling me, what your field is telling me right now, and how you're creating your identity inside of that field. Because identity, direction, and momentum, identity, direction, speed. If one of those things are off, your feedback loop is going to be off. And the most frustrating part is to help people understand that there is going to be a delay in your external reality reflecting your internal reality until the body catches up, until the body can hold what you're trying to create and the frequencies that you've cleared. So it took me, from that period of time, those 5 or 7 years, for my body to catch up, for me to be able to have enough momentum to move into these other levels of resonance, to be able to hold these higher levels of resonance without getting blown out. Because your body will fucking blow out on you. You will get sick, you'll recurse, you'll pick up, you know what I mean? And then your life around you will crumble and you'll think you think the work isn't working. No, those are all the incongruent patterns and frequencies that you've been running, that you've been interacting with, no longer coherent, or those distortions can no longer accommodate the new resonance that you are.
Mm-hmm.
So things, systems, people, places, and things will leave you that are not for your highest and greatest good. They have to, if you want to play a different game. Look at what's happening in the collective right now. We're losing our collective shit. And every single cohort, right, who's logged into this reality since the beginning of time has gone through the same set of patterns.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do this shit anymore. Things have to change. It's a very exciting time to be alive. It may not feel like that, but it's very exciting. Evolution is painful. And there has been people who have succeeded in every login generation reality. And there have been people who have just absolutely collapsed under the emotional pain of it all. So pay attention to one pattern, change that, and just focus on that. Number two, do not believe your emotions or your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that are very heavy and they're accommodating a program. So if you can understand that all emotions are accommodating an underlying program or frequency, you're going to not become the effect of the emotion so much. You're just going to be able to let the waves pulse through you. And everyone's different and they, move through things quicker and slower. And that's, again, all part of the process. So,
What's
yeah.
your take on soul contracts or, past someone, certain things they're supposed to experience in this lifetime, and therefore, so they have certain struggles, and it's like they signed up for this. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I have a very unpopular one. So I look at soul contracts and agreements as a bit of an older paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
I look at all of them as let's say you came here to clear, okay, and close recursion on a certain set of experiences. Now, however you want to define that, through Akashic, through soul contracts, or you came here to experience trauma. No, not true. You came here to learn how to be fully empowered and choose yourself. You actually came here to understand what it feels like to experience full ownership of ability and power, okay? And then close the recursion of that. How that showed up in your life is through trauma, okay? So if your family line runs addiction abuse and you're the latest rendition of the family line. And you came here to overcome disempowerment in exchange, okay, to be replaced by full empowerment. So you will be presented with the deepest state inversion of disempowerment and giving your power away and trauma. Because if you run a trauma pattern and you abused somebody in a life before, you opened up that recursion. That recursion is running in your field now. And you are then going to experience trauma in order to close the loop in addition to your family. So like X marks a square, right? Those things are compatible. You run addiction abuse. That addiction abuse got installed 16 generations back from religion. That pattern that happened, you witnessed, or it's in your actual soul records. Let's say you're in your IP address, your frequency signature is currently running the aggregate of addiction and abuse. That is going to play out in your field now until you close the fucking recursion. And that means, like, believe me, very slow learner. Why did I have to experience it nearly in every decade? Okay. For me to understand, fuck, the math is not mathing here. I am missing something, right? There's a miss. So when I broke all of it down and I collapsed everything and I just went with like everything's an accommodation of an underlying program, the emotion got like evaporated for me and I could move through it so much faster because it's really hard to try to witness and understand a little version of yourself that doesn't get the protection that he or she needs, why this is happening. So children who are trafficked, and I did a whole podcast on this, people who constantly have victim patterning, victim programming, and I talk about the big five in the book, which emerged as a thesis from these sessions. I was like, there's sacrifice, okay? There's end control, there's lack, the slave, okay? How are we enslaved? Sacrifice, control, lack and scarcity, addiction, abuse, victim consciousness, and then your epigenetic shit. If you bundle all of your life into those five, you have it all. You have some version of it all. And so you play whack-a-mole with yourself. So I don't look at soul contracts. I don't look at any of that stuff. What I look at is what you're recursing and what is the influence. Where is the inception of that pattern? What's the inception point of that recursion? Because if we're not going all the way to the inception point, I'm not interested. Who the fuck wrote that code? Okay. Why did you buy into it? Who was that? Who sold you out? Right? Because that means you're going to have to face some hard shit about people in your life, people that you love, your family. Like it gets vicious. And most people don't have the stomach for it. You know, like I've had to witness and see some horrendous shit, physically, non-physically, things that have happened to me, dormant memories, things that I've had to pull up and out. And I was like, damn, we're cooked. If this is what it takes, we are fucked as a collective because this is like way too hard. That's why I'm like, can I just like do some shit in the back end and I don't have to talk to anybody? It's because it's like really hard. But part of the beauty of it is becoming so innately, unbelievably aware of your consciousness and how much you've gone through. Because again, I have been faced with nothing but things that are going to disempower me. And I have given my power away in so many ways. And now it's like the buck stops here. Recursion is closed. Like my kids moving forward will never have to experience that. That baseline is going to be so much higher for them. And like it took me so long to clear all that stuff because of the heavy lineage. I was like, I would never have chosen this for myself. I would never have chosen this family for myself. What the fuck? Like I would have been wildly chosen when I was younger. I'm out. Love you. Thank you. But like I'm out. And so there's a lot of contracts and let's say agreements and stuff that I will constantly refresh. But my language set is what is still running as an error code that I need to delete and refresh? What just recursed? Like, why did I download that pattern again? Why did I download that program? Like, what's running through me that's allowing that to happen? So I look at patterns, programs, that's it, and then the recursion of that. And once I delete that at the inception point, automatically all of I see the IP address literally just boop. Like there's an efficiency and a speed that people operate inside of because they don't have to carry that anymore. And like, I don't know about you, but I would much rather fly a stealth fighter that can go anywhere, that's fast as hell, that's just like, right? Than like an F-150 slow as hell plane that has no agility. That's
Right.
not fun. So I want to be able to maneuver and adapt and get access and create life in a different way, have more synchronicities, joys, vitality, like be fully alive and fully a woman and feel pleasure and have sensuality. And like that's really exciting to me. That's very euphoric.
Mm-hmm.
And that only comes with clearing shit that isn't yours. And
Mm.
so it is a relentless kind of process. You have to love it. I think that's probably why I'm just like very forensic with this in a way. It's like I will drill and I'm a journalist to my own pain. And I think that's why I can see the pattern so clearly because pretty much everyone is running the same set of patterns, pretty
Mm.
much. Separation from source, disempowerment, playing small, self-belief, lack of self-belief, on and on and on and on and on.
Most people are going about it the wrong way. They're going to like psychotherapy. No, no, no,
Because they don't believe, because
you
it's
know
all
what?
disempowerment.
That's there's a place for that for some people. So I'm not shitting on that, but
Me
I'm just
neither.
saying I see the ones that have tried, I'm sure you have too. They've tried everything else and then they come because they realize,
Yes.
it's
Yeah. I've done all the things and I'm stuck still. And I'm like, right, because you're ready to take off like a rocket and you know there's more and you're going at a fucking snail's pace. And I was like, buckle up, baby, because this is going to be the next, what we're about ready to embark in is not going to be pretty. It's going to be fucking messy. It's going to be full spectrum emotion. And then you stabilize and then you're like, okay, I got it.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that is going to look like you not having really any ambition, kind of not really wanting to do anything anymore, especially as a woman, because we've been so conditioned to be in hypervigilance and be ambitious and feel like we have to choose one or the other, motherhood, not motherhood, partnership, whatever. And when you actually start getting into your body, the mind has to catch up to what's happening. All of it has to start cohering into singularity, which you're going to start hearing more about too, technological singularity, which is just AI becoming sentient, and it's already happening.
Yeah.
And um, you move into becoming that signal for yourself. And then you don't have to do anything. What's my purpose, Talie? I really want to have value. I want to, I want this and I want that. And I was like, girl, you just got to be, right? Be in your body, enjoy your life, be awake, receive pleasure, control less, and then see what happens.
But
And then
that's
just keep,
so counter to the programming that everyone's received
I know. And it's so rewarded in culture, which is
all
literally
over.
what
They're constantly being bombarded with it. And
it's toxic. It's very
so many
toxic.
people are so disconnected from their bodies. I mean, you're talking about deep, deep work in,
Oh, there's no Wi-Fi signal. This is how I say, like your intelligence is the satellite, okay, and your body is the iPhone, and all you're trying to do at any given moment is connect to that Wi-Fi. And there are people who are just so disconnected,
it's
okay?
majority, I would say the majority of the
Oh, it's a majority of people that their egos and their patterns are just they're just driving them, they're running them. So
Mhm.
they're in constant reaction. Okay, this happened, and then someone to react to it.
Yep.
That's how sophisticated the program is. They've been put on co-pilot and they don't even know it.
Yep.
And I was like, can you imagine that you enter into what you think is real world and it's a dream world, and then you have to recurse in perpetuity, which is reincarnation, which is the big lie. You're supposed to transcend this whole system
Exactly.
and you're just
Exactly. Get out of the reincarnation loop.
get out of the loop. No, there's so much other shit out there. There's like Avatar School and other paradise planets and like,
That's why every
no.
person that's had an NDE, they're like, I didn't want to come back.
Oh my God, I would be out
So
in a
beautiful.
second.
I didn't want to come back.
Pure Source called me home. I was like, let's go. I'd be out in a second. And people like my family gets very upset with that. And I was like, whatever, I don't care. If like I'm not been given the option, but I know that I'm awakened enough to be able to transcend this reality. And so the idea is like I need to live from that state and show how to do that. I'm not done yet. There's still way more I want to experience because this is it. I'm not
Right,
doing this again.
right,
I'm not doing
right.
this again. I mean, there's be so much more interesting to be, on the Council of Time or something. What else? I mean, just so much something else.
I think and we will wrap up shortly. But I think one of the people don't want to look at the dark stuff. They just want to go and they want to just talk and they want to just kind of explain this is why this happened to me. And there's so much of this like bypassing this and oh, this will just cover this up. they're just like, they'll visualize this without clearing the shit. Like, I tell people, you have to start with a clean slate before you can start creating the new. They don't want to go there. They're so afraid
I
of what
know.
they're going to find.
I have family members that don't want to do that. We do not want to feel. We don't want to feel pain. And like the physical detox is very, very real. But this
Mhm.
is part of it. Like when you sign up to be in a full 360, not 180, not 90, but a full 360 embodied experience, it is all of the feelings and all of the things. You want to create, okay, let's just talk about women right now who want to create an online seven-figure business, right? Which is just, I can't even
Can't.
fucking
No.
even just the
Notice how it used to be six figure?
now, right. Now it's about eight figure. I just said multi-million dollar. Woo! And I was like, it's not shade. I love that for
God.
everyone. Like, go ahead. There's no shade. Make your money, boo-boo. But let me tell you, these are the women that pivot the most. These are the women that have a different identity every 5 seconds. Same with men, okay? Because they've learned how to generate and replicate a certain template and pattern set within a predetermined blueprint, max out, and then go back and loop it again with a different identity.
Mm.
Looping again, different identity. Whoop. It's just the same set of recursion patterns. And you will not, if you want to if you want to have that type of business model, right? You've looked around, right? You've seen all the girl bosses doing all the things, selling you a specific lifestyle and dream, and you want to create that for yourself, and you're not willing, okay, to actually do any of this work over here. You just want to lob yourself into the work over here. This will not sustain. It
Mm.
simply won't sustain. And what will happen is if you do reach that, you will be doing it at with some level of sacrifice, which is now driving the pattern, okay, of lack, scarcity, of worthiness that was right behind propelling you to have that type of experience in the first place. I want to say that I'm a seven-figure entrepreneur. I want to do it this way with this type of identity just so I can say that I did it and I have the experience of it. Okay, the person who's running those patterns and can do it with, I was like, are doing it at the expense of their body, the
Right.
expense, right? A doubling down on the patterns that they're trying to recurse in the first place. You'll be faced with all of the things that you're not in order to be able to have a certain type of lifestyle, right? Aesthetically on the outside in. Person who's running a very, I haven't seen it I haven't seen it yet. I've seen very, very few. I've experienced very few people in life, women especially, who are growing businesses in a way that is slow and sustainable, that isn't that have not been able to
Mm.
compromise or sell out or sell something to the darkness. Okay. You have to look out for false light. I
Right.
do not buy it. And the people that I buy that I see doing this are doing exactly what I talked about. They're running on it's literally just a Ferris wheel, and they're able to grow a business, okay, up to a certain level, and then that business will collapse. It's all collapse and recursion, and they'll pivot and pivot and pivot and create another identity and do it again. But they will never get past that level.
Mm.
They will never move beyond that particular level. They might be able to, but it'll be slowly. So, um, yeah, it's just a very distorted field, and
I'm
people
glad
are
you
very
talked about, yeah,
uncomfortable.
it's really important.
I was like, you guys, I'll see you in 10 years when you have a burnt out adrenal system where your hormones are fucked, where, you know what I mean? Like you picked up cancer from the third generation of your maternal line who sacrifices and martyrs themselves into oblivion,
Right.
right? Or I'll see your child pick up that pattern on your behalf because you were busy working and now they're doing the same,
Mm.
right? Like you got to choose your hard, baby. Like listen to me now. You pay now or you pay later, right? You got to choose your level of hard. And I would much rather have a slow and honest life than one that's a joke, just so I can get other people's approval and attention and whatever else to make $1 million that is under the guise of generational wealth. I
Mm.
was like, you have no idea what's coming in the next 10 years. There's going to be more things available for people at every level. It's like, just sit in the fire and continue to face yourself. Because again, like I said, you face yourself now or you face yourself later. People who bypass die unawakened deaths. And you know what that looks like? Old, broke, sad, alone. Not
Mm.
always, but that's the worst case of it, right? Your feedback loop, let me just say this, you cannot outrun your past. You cannot outrun it. And you can certainly try to outlive it, but I'm not trying to do another 2000 years of veiled living. So,
Mm.
you know
Well,
what I mean?
beautiful way to wrap up. I mean, really. One last question before I want to tell people about your book and where they can reach you is, do you have any daily practices that you,
Oh, yes.
people always
I'm
want to
ex
know? They always want to know that.
I know because I'm not special. Okay. Like I can tell you, I I'm very grateful, first of all, that I can, and I have been able to build something where I can, um, I have a lot of time and I have been able to reclaim my time.
Mm.
And that has been absolutely valuable to me. It looks like I'm a very structured person, number one. Structure for me, is very critical from continuing to embody and hold myself in my nervous system. And so I wake up with no alarm clock unless I have to. And I drink loads and I'm going to be very simple. I'm a chop wood, carry water kind of lady. So it is very, very simple for me. I spend at least 2 hours with myself in the morning, doing whatever the hell I want. I will drink coffee very slow. I will drink a shit ton of water with electrolytes in the morning. I am on a very specific regimen of food where I'm eating basically carnivore.
Oh, really?
I only eat meat. I'm not the spiritual person who is a vegan. When I first started, I was juicing and green and everything because I needed to clear my cells out. And once I cleared my cells out and was able to raise my vibration, I understood that eating consciousness evolves consciousness. So it's actually a vibratory experience. It's probably very controversial. People,
Wow, this is like a whole other podcast.
there's a whole other podcast for carnivore and there's a whole other podcast for eating. And I've had every single diet underneath the sun, and I'm happy to talk to women about this, but, and people in general about what this looks like and how you can recode the torture or whatever else, the suffering.
Right,
But
right.
there's certain animals that will literally, in the presence of this, sacrifice themselves to you because they understand
They understand. Yeah. Why
the
they're being
apex of it all. Yeah, the apex evolution, the ecosystem, like we need it. So I eat an extremely high protein, high fat diet, and it's changed my brain and changed the way that I process. So I always eat within 30 minutes of waking up, and I eat a fuck ton of fat, like loads of it, up to 200 grams of fat a day. And I'm in the best shape of my life. I walk 10,000 steps at least. I'm very physical in my body. I'm always out in nature. So every day, non-negotiable is a shit ton of water with electrolytes, eating a shit ton, counting my macros, okay, a shit ton of fat and protein, and I get loads of sleep. I'm very regimented with the time I wake up and the time I go to sleep. And I always tune in and drop in with myself. I'm constantly scanning my field to see if
Mm.
there's anything I need to clear and what I need to look at. And if something comes up for me where I have a physical reaction to my body, like I want to defend or I want to argue or I want to or I get triggered by something that I'm writing about or consuming online or whatever else, I get right into it. I go right into it immediately and I start to unpack it right away. I do not want it in my body. And then I
Wow.
get body work. I was getting body work twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week for the first 6 months in my location that I am now. And now I just do acupuncture like once a week, once every other week to continue to drop in. And I work on embodiment. And the rest of the time, I'm just play. Like I mix perfumes. I look up different supplements if I think that's what I need to be doing now. I am planning, my trip for August. I take care of my plants. I keep things really simple. I listen to a tremendous amount of classical music, and I'm learning how to DJ. And I just do stuff like that.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
you have
very like
anything on
normal.
like screen time? Are you like,
No, I don't care about any of that.
you know,
I don't care about any of that. To me, it's all about intention. And if you're numbing out on screens, chances are you kind of know it. And if I'm numbing out on screens and which everyone does, right? If I'm just in a death space or an identity solution and I just got nothing in me but to just like pin stuff, then I will do that. I don't have screen limitation. I'm not really rigid like that. I try to go with the flow as much as I can. I also take a lot of
mm,
salt baths and magnesium baths and um yeah, something else recently that I've been doing is aromatherapy, which I love. It's traditional Chinese medicine. I certified in Chinese medicine as well. And so it's like I don't really read a lot of books. I read a lot of essays. Because I'm on Substack and it's a big part of what I'm doing now. And I love people's writing. I think people are just so incredible. And horseback riding, I do that. And I don't have limitations on screen time, but I program everything that I interact with. So I'm constantly making sure that my body is boundaried and freshed, and I haven't picked up anything along the way. And I don't do it all perfectly all the time. And I just try to ease up the rigidity because spiritual community can get really, really rigid. And I think structure is really, really important for people at first because, again, containment. People need containment and chaos needs organization. So it thrives on it, wants that. And so I know for me personally, what I want to create and who I want to be in the world,
Mm-hmm.
I need to cultivate a very big container for that. And so I do whatever I can to create that
Mm-hmm.
flexibility inside of it.
What I love
Yeah.
about this is your authenticity. You are embodying what you teach, what you
Thank
put out there.
you.
It's like there's so many people that create. I mean, you're so honest. I'm like, yeah, I do this and then I play. I like, you know how many people are afraid to say that?
Stupid.
You know what I'm
I don't know
saying?
why.
It's
I
like
was like,
because, oh, wait a minute, you're not working on your business 12 hours a day? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people are just like this is how they need to be perceived in the world. Obviously, that's not nothing about who you are, but
no,
it's just so refreshing to see the authenticity of someone who's embodied it, who's done this, and yet can actually help other people and put this out in the world. So I think you are a true gift. I see you as
thank
being
you.
and I think I said this to you when I reached out to you was that you're the next level of like, yeah, we know all the people that, that we love them, the Joe Dispenzas, the Bruce Lipton, all these people.
Thank you.
They are, they've paved
Hmm.
the way, they have their place, but you've taken it to another level. And I
Thank
think you're
you.
kind of where consciousness is and is going. And I think there are bigger and greater things just keep going to keep coming for you because
Thank
it's
you.
just so, so important. So I thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. Tell people about your book, tell people about where they can reach you
Yes.
and all your wonderful offerings.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor today. Thank you. I felt I was like, I think I kind of talked a lot, but that's okay.
That's the
I'd
point.
like
That's
to,
the point. I
yeah,
want you
that's
to
the
talk.
point. I was like, what you see is what you get. I mean, the same version of me right here that you'll see me in person. But Is There All There is available on Amazon. It's available on my website. You can grab that. It's definitely an experience.
It's
I
incredible. I'm not even
thank you.
through it. I'm still
Oh
like,
my God.
you have to
Thank you.
digest it. Is like,
Yes.
and it'll blow your mind, but at the same time, you'll laugh. Like, you're such a funny, like, smart writer that it's
Thank you. And
it's actually really a pleasure to read because not only are you learning, something
oh.
entertaining. I know. Okay, enough with the
Thank you so much. So there's a little bit of a backstory, and then I swear I'll leave you alone because we could
you'll
talk
leave.
forever.
You'll leave after
So
this.
I was told when I was 13 years old I couldn't write. And no shocker there about the antagonist in my life who told me that. And that I was lacking the skill and I couldn't do it. So I shut down my dream of wanting to be a writer when I went to college and I played basketball instead and just decided to do the little like song and dance sales thing. So I committed to her to write this book. And I was 13 or 14 years old. And I was like, we're going to write it together. I'm going to do this for us. I had no idea how to put 500 words together. I had no idea how to find my voice. I had no idea how to research. This book had so many different iterations. It was so clinical in the beginning. I was so arduous with detail, with being able to like, oh, I got to make sure I know what I'm talking about. There was so much imposter that came up to me. I mean, if you've got a book in you, just get started. Like fuck, just get started. And then I decided to launch it on Substack. The audio is on there too, so you can listen to that for $9. I mean, you could just blast the book for
The
$9 a
audio's on
month if you want.
Substack?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
I
I was like, oh
read
my God, I want
every
to.
chapter.
Oh my God.
Yes, you could listen to it like a podcast if you wanted to on Substack. Come into the world.
I would actually do both because it's very different experience.
Yes. Yes. And you will hear the difference in my tone because I was going through a very big identity death when I launched this fucking thing because my billboard got taken away from me with TikTok. Okay. I
Mm.
launched it very quietly and I was like, I just sabotaged this whole thing by talking about deprogramming a virus and like, what? Like, it was just crazy. And I was like, that place is toxic. I don't want anything to do with it. But my audio is on there. the Substack. You can read the Substacks with the audio at the same time. You can buy the book and highlight it and use it as a manual. There's lots of good stuff in there. So thank you so much for that. SuperFreq, my podcast, is available right now on all streaming platforms. There's over 85 countries that listen to it. It's just such a gift. Thank you so much. And it's very raw. I don't have any intro anymore. Like it's bleh. Whatever I'm inspired to do every 2 weeks, you can do that. TallieMiller.com has all of my stuff. All of this is getting a revision too by there's a simplification and a revision process at hand. But right now, TallieMiller.com has all of my programs, ways that you can work with me, ways that you can jump in. I have a monthly membership that is active all the time. We have a call a month. There's so much content in there. People love it.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
it's like a slow, yummy little community and whatever else. But I would say I'm most active on Substack now whenever the platform decides to not be a 503 error code, which is right now, seems to be my life. So yeah, Substack is where all my writing is, and
Instagram.
Instagram. But I haven't posted. I don't really post. I post stories all the time, but I'm not really posting anything on the feed right now. But I will. Oh, I'm getting back into it. It's just, I'm not a sacrifice to the algorithm. Fuck that shit. So I write when I'm inspired, and I try to stay committed to that because it's a good time. But if you have a book and you write, do it. Challenge yourself, because you never know on the other side of that what's going to happen.
Mm.
And I'm wrapping up all my programs now, but of course you can email me for a session if you'd like that, or look out constantly for when they're available. Usually I take the summers off, and then I have new programs coming in the fall. I have nervous system wealth coming in September, which is going to be incredible. I've been doing a lot with divine feminine languaging, and getting people when to like surrender and receive real pleasure and stop the performative choreography, and um, slow everything way down and be okay with it. Unravel nervous systems. I mean, clearly I work with a lot of A-type, and the brainiacs, the PhDs, all the things, the performative that never got seen by their family, or the daughters that never got seen by their fathers, and then had the hyper controlling emotional narcissistic mother kind of archetype, and then here they are, like, where do I fit? And I'm like, I got you. So pattern purifiers, scapegoats, black sheeps, let's go. Like, let's go.
Let's go.
let's
Check her out. Go
let's have it all.
look at the book, look at the website. I'm telling you, you will
Yes.
just, if this didn't blow your mind, it will be blown. But in
Aw.
little bites, because no, it's just, you know what I find, which is one last thing, and I promise we're going. When I'll listen to like a podcast, I'll do it in my walk, and like, I think you like kind of alluded to this earlier, where I don't, I may not understand it, but I get it. And
Yes,
that's,
the
I find,
waves.
so much of your work is that, okay, I don't know what she just said, but I know it.
Yes. And then you'll re-listen. So my suggestion there is a lot of the meditations on my shop and a lot of the work that I'm doing will feel like that. You will not hear me. You will hear me, but you will not really get it.
Like,
But you already got shifted. And then you re-listen to it until you can hold that information. Re-listen to them until you hold the information, and you can rehold, you can like really get it, you embody it. And
mhm.
then you transform by listening. And I have so many people who tell me that. They're like, girl, I have not done a single thing with you. I've just listened. Your writing transforms me. Like, I've listened because this is the living system now, right? Everything that you put out into the world is a living system, and it holds the frequency. So trust that.
Mhm.
But yes, most of the time people tell me that. They're like, girl, I don't even understand the fucking word you said, but
Right.
there's something that shifted in me. So I'm trusting it. And I was like, oh, good. I
She's
will
using
work very hard at like
she's using a lot
simplifying.
of big words, and she's putting a lot of big words together. And I know this, but when you put them together, it's like sometimes that's what it feels like. Like, I know these words, but
Yeah.
what?
And it's hard for me
But I
because
love that. I
I
love being challenged that
thank you. Thank you. I really want to try to simplify without boring myself.
way. Right.
I kind of have to stay interested
Yeah.
in it
Yeah.
too, because people will be able to feel if she's not into it. And I was like, don't worry about it. Just
And
listen to it. Fall asleep in the meditations. It's okay.
not
Like,
only that, the right people are going to find you. That's the thing. The
yes,
people that can hear what you're saying will find you.
yes, that's the goal.
That's the way.
So signal, baby, in your world of noise.
That's it. Thank you so much, Talie. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and go check her out. And see you next time.